Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and this is day 6 of Revenge Week 2.0. So you're gonna be Carolina Reaper levels of spicy after watching this video. I also want to issue a disclaimer because we're getting into the more serious subreddits of revenge. If you're uncomfortable with serious crimes, please don't watch this. Also, the giveaway is still on until 11:59 PM GMT tonight. Card in the top right if you want to know how to enter. Flash a bunch of young children, all underage, the youngest being 3, prepare to be scarred for life. So, just a disclaimer, on mobile yada yada, and I did not do the revenge. It was my mum's best friend who did it on myself and the other children's behalf. I was a child at the time, and the reason this whole thing was done. Jail time was served by 3 individuals due to the nature of this crime. I have left 1 individual out of the story as she did not do much and was underage at the time of the crime. This happened around 2011 or 2012. So, some details may be hazy and I do apologise for that. I don't condone what my mother's friend did, but I am grateful that she did this for myself and my siblings and the other children. TLDR at the bottom, as this may be long. Abbreviations: MBF, mum's best friend; POS, piece of crap; FOF, friend of mum's best friend; me is me obviously; 3, the amount of siblings. Around 2010 to 2012, my mother and stepfather at the time had been slowly getting worse in their relationship, to the point my mother feared for the lives of her children, me and the 3 siblings. Mum's best friend helped my mum out and said we could stay with her safely for however long it took to get her back on her feet. Cue piece of crap. Piece of crap really was a piece of work. He was a friend of mum's best friend at the time and was around quite a lot in the house. I'm not gonna lie and say that at the time he wasn't the coolest person any of me and the 3 had met, and he'd always give us £5 whenever we asked to go to the shops. One day, mum's best friend decided to have a birthday party for me and her own kid, hereby known as IK for innocent kid, as our birthdays were both in July and the weather was awesome. She invited piece of crap and his girlfriend at the time. It was relatively good fun until that night when me, 3 and innocent kid were all starting to get tired and made our way upstairs to watch a horror film. It had been about an hour into the film when piece of crap came upstairs into the room, looked at all of us children and decided it'd be great to get his tiny D out and whip it out in front of us all, as he looked at all of us. Children, none above the age of 13. Both innocent kid and my birthdays were ruined. He heard one of our parents coming up and then put it away and acted like a normal person again. It wasn't until 2 months later any of us told our parents. Revenge time. When mum's best friend heard this news, she began to plot and plot and plot. Now, the day this had happened, I had left 5 minutes just before the revenge came to fruition, but this is what mum's best friend and the police informed myself of while giving an interview. Mum's best friend had gotten piece of crap drunk as F, and while he was drinking, she was still planning. Mum's best friend can hold her liquor very well, and she knew piece of crap couldn't. She had me confirm what had happened, and then she made her move. Mum's best friend started boiling water as if she was going to make some tea. Piece of crap was none the wiser, and the friend of mum's best friend had turned up to really make this a party for him. While mum's best friend was in the kitchen, her friend began to work her magic and brought a glass bottle with her. Mum's best friend made sure to get her friend involved first. Mum's best friend came back into the room and offered piece of crap a 3-way. Piece of crap agreed eagerly, and when piece of crap had stripped himself completely naked, mum's best friend and her friend tied him to her bed. Mum's best friend then immediately rams the glass bottle up piece of crap's ass, and according to the police and the neighbours, his screams could be heard across the junction beside her house. Mum's best friend then plugged her iron in and waited for it to heat up. While mum's best friend did this, her friend got the new boiled water and poured it over piece of crap's face and body. Mum's best friend then used the iron on him. This is where the police arrived and arrested mum's best friend and her friend. Mum's best friend and her friend got jail time. Mum's best friend for 6 years for attempted murder. Her friend I don't recall. Innocent kid, 3 and myself all testified against piece of crap for indecent exposure to minors. And mum's best friend was given 3 years of her overall sentence. And her friend also a reduced sentence. Piece of crap now has scars for life across one side of his face and all over his left side from the iron and boiling water poured on him, as well as PTSD for what happened. Piece of crap never did face a prison sentence for flashing us children, which is why I'm grateful for mum's best friend for her own justice being brought upon him. TLDR, friend of a friend indecently exposed himself in front of a bunch of minors. Mum's best friend burns him alive with an iron and boiling water. Please let me know if any mistakes made or doesn't make sense, but it just feels nice to finally be allowed to talk about this after so long. And I'd say the revenge was pretty life-destroying. Edit, forgot to add, piece of crap did attempt to kill himself because of the trial and his injuries, along with his girlfriend breaking up with him, and failed. He was put into a psychiatric ward for 3 months and has subsequently been told he's no longer allowed in our town. Plywood pyros. Oh god, here it goes. Insert obligatory mobile posting, and English is my first language, and hey, it's my first post. I've read and listened to a lot of other people's revenge stories and finally decided to post my own from middle school to high school years. This one is highly illegal. Backstory: I will try and keep short and sweet. All through middle school and most of high school, there was a drug dealer living across the street from us. I was a kid who kept to himself that also had a lot of tendencies, mainly just the destructive ones. I also had a handful of friends like this as well. We lived not too far into the country, but close enough to a city to drive 20 to 30 minutes to Walmart. There was no neighbours for about a mile down each side of the road. We lived atop a slope, so you could roll a Swiss ball into someone's house and most likely cause a fence to collapse. So on to the story. The drug dealer moved in while I was in middle school, and within a month there was a line of cars parked outside, presumably people coming to buy dope. Being in a trash middle school, every kid sold some kind of illegal substance. So that was the school I was in. My friend, who wonderfully gained the nickname of Graves, mainly because if you wronged him even slightly, you wish you'd be in one, always wanted to hang out with me. Graves and I were both 6 foot in middle school, and about 200 pounds each. We hung out and he spent the night at my house. We talked about random things in the anarchist cookbook, society itself, and just everything effed up in the world. I fell asleep soon after he did, and about an hour later, 4 in the morning, we heard gunshots across the street. We were in the living room, which is closest to the drug house. A little backstory for Graves: his mother and father beat him, his dad was in military service, and his mother was an alcoholic. He had been living with his grandparents for quite some time when both of them passed within a week of each other. During this time, he lived alone in the house in fear of his father and mother finding out. His uncle called to say hello, and he took up the chance to move with them. Graves also tortured small animals like lizards, squirrels, dogs, opossums, anything he could get his hands on, pretty much how society views bullies. Graves was also a single child and was respected by his uncle either out of fear or just being a nice effing dude. Anyways, the gunshots. The windows shattered all across the floor as Graves and I trampled over furniture, bags of chips, broken glass, and soda cans to get out of the living room. My immediate thoughts were, am I gonna effing die? Have I been shot? I had not realised there was glass sticking to my feet. My dad was already up and poking his head out the window with a rifle. We called the cops. Tires screeched as they pulled into our driveway. We were questioned and showed them the windows, bullet holes in the wall, and the likes of that. At this point, they had already surrounded my neighbour's house. They questioned him, couldn't find a gun, despite the many holes in his walls as well, and they saw enough drugs for possession of methamphetamine. Graves, my dad and I all celebrated, but later turned into, wait, what the F? Because he had returned no less than 6 months later. Graves and I were confused and angry. We could see it in each other's eyes. We already knew what we had to do, especially since they put a hole in my car that I had been saving for since I was 10. A Toyota 1987, think initial D. I love that car, mainly because me and my dad had been fixing it for 3 years and it was fun as hell to drive. I also really love older cars, specifically G-body cars, El Caminos. Other damages included were the windows, walls, paint for my car alongside bodywork to bang out a dent, a small wiring fix, drywall pieces, and spackle. Do you know how many fields I had to effing mow for this goddamn car? Aside from the shooting incident, the dealers frequently went onto our property, stole things, and were chased by my angry shotgun-wielding father. Dealers also tried breaking into the house, my dad's truck, my car, our sheds, the list goes on. They also tried setting fire to our yard using gasoline. Now, my dad is usually a level-headed guy, but he knew something was up with us. Graves started coming over more. I was spending more time with him on the phone, the usual. This went on sporadically for about a year or so. One day, my dad pressured Graves and I until we told him our plans. What do you know, my dad agreed to them and was willing to join in the charades. He only agreed to this after chewing us a few dozen new a-holes. At this point, it was my first year in high school. We did get looks at school as other students asked us about what we were reading, anarchist cookbook. Teachers asked us if everything was alright, as I seemed somewhat panicky the next day. Security brought me into the office to speak with a counsellor, which I pretty much just told them to F off and was given detention. Summer had just begun, so I skipped detention. F it, I'm going to high school next year anyways. This would be perfect. So the plans were as followed in a loose order. Things we had to buy: fast dry concrete, plywood, a new BB gun, alcohol, a flare, and random fireworks. We were going to blow out the windows with the BB gun, a cheap one so we can melt it down later. Board up his door and pour concrete in to seal it off. Throw in the flare through a window alongside with some fireworks, and watch the house burn down. Obviously, we could most definitely get arrested, but we didn't care. Our neighbours were gone on vacation, and either way, they wanted the drug dealers gone as they had also tried to steal crap off their property, namely their car. So, months went by of observing the house after his return. We figured out the schedules and such, along with the general layout of the house. There was only one door to the outside. They were home roughly every Sunday and Monday preparing drugs, and nobody ever showed up on those days. We had fun during those months, mailing fake eviction notices, health department notices, and just overall scam-worthy letters. We even shipped dog crap to them, along with odd sex toys we found. Overall, we spent maybe $200 on letters and mailing of the USPS grade shenanigans. So the night came, Sunday, and it was 1:30 in the morning. We snuck across the street and we drilled the plywood into the house and poured the concrete through the top opening. We took this slow as not to wake them up. We waited a while, around 3:30 in the morning, and then began shooting the windows. Once the first one busted out, we could tell they were up. My dad had tied about 3 mortars, a crap ton of firecrackers and more to the flare. There was a gallon jug of gasoline oil mixed to speed things up. This was also tied to the flare, making it look like a Mad Max level incident. We lit the flare and then chucked it through the window. The fireworks began and you could hear the screams. Grave was still shooting them as they tried to find a non-broken window to crawl out of. They tried to open the door. Door wouldn't move. Either way, if it hadn't have dried, there was still a plywood board there. I could still hear the screams as the fire soon set to a lot of other things in the house. We started our own fire to melt the plastic off the BB gun and then beat it with hammers to deform the metal so it looked like a broken pipe. About 50 minutes later, the fire department arrived, but it was too late. The screaming had already stopped. The concrete slab of a door had exploded from all the air bubbles left in it, the materials they had used burned up, and finally, the explosions from not just our beginning fireworks, but from their lab setup. After 20 minutes, the house was put out, and not much remained of it. Now, I'm not sure if they died from asphyxiation via the smoke, drug overdose, burning, or something else, but I really hope it was the burning. The police did not rule it as arson as they found syringes and other drug lab related materials in one of the back sheds. We should have set fire to that as well. We were questioned. Graves and I were panicked and basically said we woke up when there was screaming, and soon after the fire department arrived. My dad had said something along the lines of us, but added that they were dealers. Honestly, I'm fairly certain the cops just absolutely hated this man. They didn't take kindly to dealers or users. We have since moved to a much nicer neighbourhood, despite living near a main road. I keep in contact with Graves, he's moving here soon. I currently love my new neighbours, except one. Side note to the lunacy, where did we get this book? My grandfather was in Vietnam as a pilot. He never really told us about it, as he would get tremors and shake whenever he talked for more than 5 minutes. My grandfather was also an avid reader and had many friends that died in the war. He had a large collection of books related to Vietnam, including the Anarchist Cookbook and many others, about 23. He read these to calm himself down and get an understanding of what happened alongside the views of many others. This did make his PTSD worse on occasion, but after finishing his large collection of books, PTSD was a very minute problem. He died years later, a happy man from heart failure. Rest in peace, Gramps. My grandfather, when he was still alive, always laughed with my father. He was a level-headed man in a twisted way. If someone pissed him off somewhere, he would pour sugar in their gas tank or just key their car. He always kept a glass container with sugar in it for this reason. I thought he just liked sugar. Now, a reflection to this. Yeah, it probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but we were young and dumb. My dad hasn't told anyone about this, and we keep it on the low. Honestly, I have not changed since the incident, and neither has my dad. Graves, on the other hand, probably jerked off the night after to the screams. I do have more stories to share in the subreddit alongside pro, nuclear, and petty revenge. Okay, so that's all for r/SupernovaRevenge. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!